You're literally training people to disrespect you, and you don't even know it. I'm literally talking to my younger self, where in my teens and in my 20s, and now even into my 30s, the difference is I was training people to disrespect me, and I didn't realize it. And now I realize the other side, where people try to, right, see what they can get away with, because that's just human nature. And it's not the same, reaction they expect. And then they realize who they're actually dealing with, who they're talking to. Now, this isn't about you having some, woo woo confidence and I'm the number one and just gaslighting yourself, right? It's about the truth. Where in my teens and even before then and into my 20s, I'm a very vocal slash, social person. So that doesn't mean that that annoying guy who's vocal and like always, complaining about something or how it could be better or just being that like toxic energy. It's rather the inverse, where I consider myself a ball of joy, right? And those around me, they know this, and hopefully we meet one day too, right? Point being, when you're just yourself, who is you? Like, who are you, right? Like, if you ask me, I'm an easygoing guy, like, no constraints or restrictions. Man, I'm chilling, I'm hanging out, I'm doing whatever. I laugh, I smile. We're all hanging out because that's what humans do, right? That's what they do. We're social creatures, we're social beings. And in society, because some people, right, a section of, let's say, the population, it's usually not everybody is the problem. Because if everyone's a problem, buddy, you're probably the problem, right? So the point is, when there's like 5% of, a certain type of group of folks, right? And terrorism is a bit like out there, right? But I'll use it as a good example where it's not like everyone's a terrorist, right? But it's that subsect of the subsect of the subsect of that population for those few people that may ruin it for everyone. And that's just a fact. Similarly, it's not like everyone's out there trying to, hey, let me wake up this morning. Who can I disrespect today? Like, it's not one of those, right? And you can kind of see, like, I'm just being myself here in this video because this is myself and I wouldn't make videos otherwise, to be very honest. Because then it's just like, quote unquote, a job, stereotypically, where you don't want to clock in, you don't want to do something, right? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, apart from those stereotypes, how are we actually training folks? Well, in my life, I used to, as I was saying, share a lot, maybe overshare, right? And what happens is when you're just being brutally honest, straightforward, you have nothing to lose. It's basically confidence exuding from you just out of yourself. You actually have authority in the room. Because the key is, you're not here trying to peddle something that you're not. Or, hey, buy this something that you don't have conviction behind, right? If it's like a sales kind of thing. So the point is what? The point is how we were training people to disrespect you basically for many years. And from my side specifically is I was just being myself. But what I didn't realize is society wanted me to be a certain, what they think. They look at this person and maybe they talk a certain way. Maybe I can get away with them. Maybe they're kind of dumb, they're kind of stupid, they're kind of naive, they're kind of inexperienced, all the words, right? But in the end, that's a judgment that you don't have to bear because that's what they're thinking of you. But the question is, right, like, why are they thinking of this, of you? And so when it comes to me, being nice, approachable, smiley, like, it's just who I am. But that expression of nice guys finish last, like, I hate to say it's kind of true, but it depends what the goal is, right? If you're trying to be the number one diplomat just because you're nice, you probably need to be a little nasty behind closed doors or be very blunt or black and white, right? You can't just live in the gray area because there's that expression of literally that bad publicity is, still good publicity. If you're in the middle of everything, like, unless some people need to go through you for something, like for government, like regulations slash approvals, they gotta pass you. You're nice or not, they'll bend down backwards because that's the respect slash the authority of the government. AKA, when you think about taxes in the U.S., like, you can't get away with certain things, and that's how strong at least the system, brands itself. It's all marketing, right? It's all about saying, who am I, and what are you gonna do about it, right? Because it's all about ego. It's all about, back to biology, right? The biggest guy or the alpha, or hey, they have broad shoulders, so they're probably more disciplined, probably more strong, probably smarter. But there are studies that just because you're jacked or something doesn't mean you're a lunkhead, and it also doesn't mean you're the smartest guy ever. So I was just, just training people to just attract the most disrespect in the world because what they kind of envision the world is like, hey, someone who's nice, kind, friendly, all these things, they're my buddy, they're my boy. And it's not that your boy shouldn't deserve respect, but when you're younger, when you don't realize, the authority classes, there's respect to parents, but even in some cultures there isn't. Why? When we question discipline, like whether that's, physical or verbal, I'm not saying I condone any of this, right? But the initial human reaction when you talk about like fear or fear-based kind of training, programming, reinforcement, all these psychological things, right? It really just comes down to what do you respect and why. So in my life, I went from basically the guy who basically was always easy to walk over, but I would take it with a smile, get on up, and just, go to the next thing because I didn't really care. But honestly, I was so naive, I didn't realize I was being disrespected. And what that really translates to in terms of an actual tangible outcome is that when you want something, right? In other words, if you're asking for a promotion, if you're begging for $1, if you're begging for something, right? It's kind of like you're asking, requesting. Where is the power in that conversation, right? It's going to be in the counterparty. And that's when they can choose to decide how they want to proceed. It's not about them being high and mighty. It's about that frame of conversation. And so for me, I realize there's only two ways, right? Either one, there's an expression of, yeah, they may not like me, but they respect me, right? There's that. But when you truly need a favor or something like this, unless you have power behind that respect, you're just a guy that no one wants to talk to. So it's basically a choice of, okay, do I want to be that asshole whom nobody likes but they respect? And I agree, like that is great in business. And there's some things that, business is, by definition, let's say black and white or transactional. So one thing equals another, or one thing is perceived to have this much value. So let's negotiate to make that deal happen. And that kind of back and forth, and that's one angle. But for me, I realize the answer is really just realizing who are you? Like if you own yourself, then that's what really matters. And if you can back yourself, and if you have the strength to say, hey, I've done this many things, and now I'm doing this other thing, where in my example, working corporate America in my 20s, 9 to 5, I'm a social guy, hey, what's up, hello, all the things. People, their worldview, right, their fishbowl of a world that they were living in, they were basically like, okay, this guy, he's always out and about, he's socializing, he's, you could call it networking for lack of a better term, but that's not what I was doing. I'm just friendly guy, what's up, hey, hello, I just want to know more about who am I dealing with, right? Because it's the people, I believe, that make, a certain system. It's not exactly the work that needs to be done. The work can be done by really anybody. That's just the truth. When you know, you know. So the inverse was what they didn't see was I was grinding. Right after that 9 to 5, I was grinding all throughout the night on literally 1, 2, 3 hours of sleep and even less, more, all over the place. And so people would think like, this guy's showing up, like he's not really maybe doing anything, right? I'm doing all my tasks on time and boss is happy with me, all the things. But people's perception, because their optics, because that's this is my school, this is my, my thing, that this is what matters. And for me, I was like, this doesn't matter, like to me at all whatsoever. And so whether you call that trading in the stock market or trading in the cryptocurrencies market and using those gains to then buy assets and then eventually realize if people look at job equals money, the real money is not by spending your time for money. It's about having something for yourself, right? So all of that to say, that disrespect, people would be thinking, I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing it and he's achieving because I wasn't doing this for their, acceptance or, oh, this guy's so amazing, he's the guy. Like, no, there's nothing there. It's when you realize people are just wasting their own time thinking about other people, like watching the news or social media or gossip or certain things. And I'm guilty of it too. I'm not saying I don't watch, right? But the point is, what is the whole thing in the end of the day? It's all about the framework of you knowing, okay, what are you doing? What is the most important next step? What is your highlight of the day? Did you plan maybe today for tomorrow, right? Like me making this video, I've thought about this topic for not just a second or a minute or a week. It's actually been on my mind for more than a week and I haven't executed, right? So respect is basically you also saying like you're going to do something and then do it. And so me doing this video is homage, I guess, to myself, or me proving to myself one more time, like, hey, you did the iteration, and who is it for? Okay, is there value? It's me saying to others, like, hey, I've been in this situation, I don't tolerate it, and I don't want to be there again. And so what am I doing now? And what will I maybe have to do not to, spend my time, oh, people are going to disrespect me, what are they going to think? My life sucks. Like, it's not like that. It's the inverse of those thoughts shouldn't even matter because the people thinking about those things, they don't have enough things going on. Or you have something so much that they want that they're concentrating on you. And both cases do not affect you. You just got to stay in your lane and keep on going, right? Towards whatever that goal, your why, that North Star, all the fancy words. So all of that to say in a nutshell, that if you came this far, I went from someone who basically was always looked at like a joke because I was a nice guy, I guess. At the same time, my output and outcomes are not a joke. And What I will say is, after a lot of trials and tribulations, as I'm more of a core investor, where this channel is more me just sharing life lessons with my younger self and anyone else who's going through the same thing, right? I basically always wanted to not just buy a stock, not just buy the next hot altcoin. Like, I'm talking about a physical, real business that basically has cash flow month over month or period over period. Maybe that's week to week, right? And where you also have appreciation by just doing the said business. So what does that mean? I'm basically now endeavoring on a project where, after I've learned a lot of lessons of being the minimum wage worker to the corporate America worker to investing all in different asset classes, I've seen success in real estate, straight up. And so I'm building a 250 room hotel. Construction has started and it's open to investment. Because if I ever wanted a piece of a deal of a Marriott, a Wyndham Hotel, an IHG, a Hyatt, all of these places, what happens? It's not really so straightforward. I can't just go knock on someone's door or like, hey, buy this. I can buy the Marriott stock, right? But it's not the same as getting into the cash flows of the actual property. It's not into acquiring the land and it's registered in your name, literally, where now you have land appreciation, right? And then it's developed land. That too, it's a commercial development on top. And you own a part of the active cash flow because you literally own a room. But we're shooting for 5-star status. I can't guarantee that, right? We'll build it that way. Whatever happens with the accreditation afterwards is what it is. So with all that said, I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested. But with that, it's at a point where you can try to disrespect me, right? Ask the question to you, right? Like, who is the number one person who maybe disrespects you? And maybe you got to cut them, or maybe you got to cut them short, or maybe you got to be that much more strong in that which what you're doing, which means what? You're garnering results, whether today or you're on the path to. Because progress, if you just say I'm progressing, I'm getting somewhere, right? That's cool. But in the end of the day, what? What do you have to show for it, right? So if you're sitting down and watching this video, get up, take action, figure out the next step, make it happen. Because the biggest disrespect is to yourself, where when you say you're going to do something and you're not going to do it, or not doing it, or don't even have a plan, then you're just wasting your time, period. So with that, thanks for coming to the end. I'll see you in the next one. Peace for now.